Scott Erland in with head men's basketball coach Josh Schertz for our weekly report. Coach, we haven't done one of these in a few weeks here. We took a time off for the holidays and all that, but now we're back and ready to go. Let's first look back to Saturday's game. Ended a 2-week layoff, and you go to a really highly anticipated game. It was us at number 11 versus then number 17 Bellarmine. Huge game, and unfortunately it just didn't really go in our favor that day. Bellarmine comes away with a 98-84 victory. Obviously you've had a couple times to go back and watch that footage. Just talk about assess your team's performance in that game.
Well, we just didn't play well enough to get the job done. There's our execution, our consistency. We did some good things, but not enough good things. We talked to our guys, against a team like that, it has to be a consistency in terms of our execution, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And I thought, we had too many breakdowns. To Bellarmine's credit, we did break down. They made us pay, every single time. Felt like, we couldn't get stopped. Some of that was, in our control. Some of that wasn't in our control. I thought Bellarmine played outstanding, and I thought, from our end, we kind of followed them around and let them do what they wanted to do. And when you have a team that's skilled and that talented, you let them just do what they want. Results not going to be very good. So, I think that's, looking back on it, we have to focus on. There's a lot of ways to take that game. A lot of perspectives you can have, and the two things I told our guys are, one is we have to get better, and there has to be a more disciplined, more determined, more consistent effort from an execution standpoint. I was happy with how we competed, but we got to clean up those areas. And the second part of that is, life's not always fair, and if you take a lesson out of that, you got to worry about the things you can control, and we've got a lot of controllable things that we got to do better to play better and become a better team, and then you're not always going to get a fair shake in life in general, and so but that wasn't the main thing. The main thing is focusing on what you can control, getting better in the areas we got to improve and become a better basketball team, and that's what we're working on right now, and trying to get ready for another really challenging week back inside the South Atlantic Conference.
And I know there's no moral victories; those don't exist really. But Bellarmine, in a lot of ways, it seems like a program that we kind of want to get to that level at some point. They've been to 3 Final Fours, won a national championship in 2011, and to go into that gym, more than 1,900 people there. It was a really hostile environment from start to finish. And honestly, for 38 minutes, 39 minutes, even, that was a game that was going to come down to the last second. 16 lead changes, 7 ties. So you had to be proud of your teams just in terms of competitiveness and on that stage.
Yeah. I think Bellarmine, we scheduled that game with an idea to, I think, we talked about before the game, get a snapshot of where we are, when they're fully healthy. They haven't been healthy, some of the year, but when they're fully healthy, they're as good as anybody in the country. And to go into that environment, in those circumstances and all that, and how our guys fought and competed. Again, I think basketball, that's half the battle. You get guys to compete their butts off, and our guys did. They fought and scratched and clawed, and every time it seemed like things were going to get away, we kind of were able to bring them back. Took a lead in the second half, as you said. 16 lead changes, 7 ties. It was obviously final score was deceiving. There was a lot of stuff that happened inside the last minute and a half that changed things around. But again, I didn't leave out of there discouraged with our fight, with our effort, those things. I left there with a pretty good idea that we got exposed in areas that we've got to improve in, which is what you're gonna win or lose. When you win, everything's not perfect. When you lose, everything's not terrible. And it's usually you have to go in and assess and try to figure out what you're doing well, where you got to improve. Build your strengths and certainly work to correct your weaknesses. And we had some things that we probably weren't doing well during that 10-game winning streak that maybe weren't quite as exposed, that were exposed against Bellarmine. And sometimes it's easier as coaches, you can see it, but maybe for players it's easier sometimes when you when you have lose, because when you have a loss, because crisis brings about change in life, and so not that losing to Bellarmine was a crisis, but you understand what I'm saying. It's a scenario where it makes them take a deeper look at it, and hopefully we'll respond the right way. And now that they've seen it and seen the consequence, we can get better moving forward, because it doesn't get really any easier as we get into the long part of the season. Now you got really the vast majority of our work is ahead of us, not behind us.
One, you had already alluded to it, and now we look ahead to a busy week. Southland Conference grind starts now officially. Mars Hill head there on Wednesday, and that's a team 5-7 overall, 3 straight losses, but I think it seems a little deceiving overall. They've got 3 losses by just 6 points or less, or 2 possessions or less. A team that can get really hot from the 3-point line and end up being scary in a lot of ways. So talk about the challenge, obviously, of going into Mars Hill and playing that team.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, people have a tendency to take a look at somebody's one-loss record to determine how good a team is or isn't. They've had some really difficult losses. As you said, 3 by 6 points or less. Played, Queens, who's top 10 in the country, and it was a 1-point game at half, and that was a tight game deep into the second half, and so they've been in position a number of times and beat a really good Catawba team. So I think they're very talented, really good offensively, average up in the mid 80s per game. I think 84 a game. Shoot the 3 exceptionally well. They've got really 4 guys that are kind of interchangeable in that backcourt that all put up big numbers. Look at guys like Yergin, Carson off the bench, Monroe, Witherspoon, can do things. I mean, they've got a couple good big guys. The Griffin kid inside 30 is a good player. So, I mean, they come off the bench. They got depth. So they're a difficult team to prepare for. Again, they really play with a lot of freedom and confidence on the offensive side of the ball. We expect their best on Wednesday, and we'll have to be at our best to have a chance to have success Wednesday. We know they'll play well, and again, a lot of respect for those guys. They're a talented team, and really offensively can get it going.
And then obviously the goal is not to overlook Mars Hill from what's coming in here on Saturday. You got number 8 ranked Queens coming in here on Saturday. Your old boss, Bart Lundy, over there with the Royals, he's got them off to an 11-0 start. Of course, they host Catawba before coming in here. Obviously, we've had a lot of success against Queens the last few years, but they return almost their entire starting lineup. I think maybe their entire starting lineup.
Yeah, they're all starting lineup.
And obviously, they're living up to the hype so far. So, without looking too much ahead of Mars Hill yourself, what is the challenge of having the Royals come in here on Saturday?
Well, I think when you look at Queens, they've got a lot of answers personnel-wise at every position. I mean, extremely talented, very athletic, have terrific inside-outside play. Have 2 of the premier players in the league, and Sean Morgan on the interior, Rob Lewis on the perimeter, Marquise Rankin, point guard is outstanding. They've got size, they've got depth. Again, they can do a lot. I think Kendall Jones is a really good player. Withers, Daniel Camps transferring from Northern Kentucky has been outstanding for them. They're just extremely talented. I think much improved from last year, mainly because as you mentioned, they have continuity. All those guys are back. Their whole starting 5 returns. They added a couple of impact guys in Daniel Camps and Jacoby Davis, and so we expected them to be good, and again extremely talented. Not a lot of weaknesses when you look at them. They're just, again, they have terrific personnel, and it'll be a tremendous test for us. I thought the same thing the last few years. They're as talented as anybody in the league. And again, they're just much better because I think they have experience now. They have continuity, and they're having an outstanding year, and have beaten everybody that's come their way. And so we'll have to play again. Like every other game in this league, you got to play at an extremely high level, and to have a chance to be successful. And we'll expect Queens, again, just like with Mars Hill, to be at their best Saturday, and we'll have to be at our best to be competitive Saturday here at home. Hopefully, get a good crowd out, and we'll be able to go in and play well. If we don't, obviously there'll be some serious consequences, as there was, at Bellarmine.